Hey there, folks. Francis Vapes here, 330 Vapes, and today I'm doing a quick little build tutorial on the Ud Zephyrus. I have one of these in the cloned version that I use a nickel build in. Today, however, I'm requiring a little bit better flavor and vapor production than I'm getting from my Atlantis V2. I just recently acquired two of these tanks. And these are the authentic Ud tanks. There are a couple of minor differences, but nothing real major. So anyways, what I'm doing here is I've got some 26 gauge wire, some kanthal wire, and I'm doing 7 wraps on each side. So I'm wrapping them around a 2mm screwdriver. Here's the first side. It's, you know, I need to deal with this camera situation, don't I, folks? So here's this one, and it's just, I'm skipping one center hole so that I can center post the coils easier, meaning that, as you can see where the leads are coming out, I've got one on the outside, and then instead of going to the hole adjacent to it, I'm skipping that and going to the other hole. And that's so that I can better center my coils over the air holes. So right now I've got these here through the posts, and I'm going to go ahead, tighten my leads down. I'm not going to be real concerned with how exactly the coil lands. I'm going to leave a little bit of extra wire on the outside lead right here, so that it gives me a little bit of room to move the coil over to make it more centered. So let me go ahead and tighten that down, because I'm going to pulse these, and I'm going to kind of get them lined up properly once I get these installed. The trickiest part about this build, honestly, is the wicking, and trying to get that to keep up with the wattage that you're putting through here. And I'm thinking this is going to land somewhere around a 0.4 in that range. I didn't do any calculations. 1, 2, 3. So here I'm wrapping this one. 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm making sure that I'm wrapping these as close to each other as possible to alleviate the need for extra manipulation on the coils once I get them installed. So here's this one. 7 wraps around a 2mm. Okay, and I'm going to install this one the same way I installed the other one. Sometimes what I'll do is, before I install the second coil, I'll put my screwdriver back in here, and then I'll just pull this up a little bit, or down, in either direction really. Down sometimes might work a little better, in fact, and that's so that I can clear the coil with my wire going in the other side, so it's not going right through the middle of the coil when I put this lead through, and then that way I don't have to worry about you know, it being more difficult to trim the leads and stuff. So let me go ahead and install this. Okay, so I've got my second coil installed, and it's looking all crazy right now. Okay, but that doesn't bother me, because I'm going to take my screwdriver and I'm going to put it in here, and I'm going to just kind of tilt it to where I want it to be. Okay. Oh, and I need to trim my leads. So, like I said, the reason I did that was so that I would be able to get that lead sticking out there, is coming out above that coil, so I'm not getting it wrapped up and stuck into the other coil, poking through it and trying to get that out of there. So, here we go. This is before I've done any pulsing. I haven't done any pulsing yet. I haven't done any twisting or pulling. So I'm probably gonna go down in the 0.4. I hit exactly 0.4. 7 wraps, 26 gauge, both sides gave me 0.4. I'm gonna pulse it at 33 watts. So I'm just gonna kind of heat these up a little bit, and they're already glowing at the same time. So that's good. That means that my leads have all been trapped well, and I don't have to worry about one side firing more than the other side. I'm going to take my pair of needle nose pliers here, and I'm just going to kind of get some of this stuff out of the way. I'm just going to kind of watch them glow, and then I'm going to pinch. Until I've got it glowing from the inside out and evenly on both sides. And see, I think this one's coming up a little bit more than the other one. I'm going to take my screwdriver and move this coil back up a little bit. And I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna apply even pressure on both sides of the coil here. Okay, and then I'm just gonna kind of wiggle it. I'm gonna wiggle it to get it over where I want it without misshaping the coil. And I can feel that these screws, one of these screws at least, has loosened up a little bit. So I'm gonna go back with my screwdriver and I'm gonna tighten everything down one more time. Okay, and this one needs to be kind of tilted in a little bit more, so I'm going to do that and make sure that I'm not going to be touching the barrel, the outer barrel. And I've got it, it's a little bit too far. It's a little bit too far, so I might be touching the barrel on here, so I'm going to loosen up the outer, the negative screw on that coil, and I'm just going to, as I do that, I'm going to grab my pliers and pull that lead just a little bit, and then I'm going to put my finger on the wire and I'm going to hold that coil where it's at so it doesn't pop back out from where I pulled it, and tighten that screw back down again. Sorry I don't have any close-up in this scenario. I will be doing some more close-up stuff here in the near future. So that's in a lot better shape now. As far as I'm inside the boundary of this build deck. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pulse again. And I'm going to pinch the other side while it's hot. Make sure that my coils are touching, but I don't want to put too much pressure on this, or else what will happen is when I squeeze it, I'll get a coil overlap. Okay, so I've tweaked and moved and pinched and done all these things to these coils to get them in the right place. And just the same stuff I was showing you, putting my screwdriver in there, bending them the way I want, taking my pliers and wiggling them, gently pushing. And I have another tool. Let me grab that real quick. This is a dental pick, and it's great because it tapers. It starts out fat, like at a 3mm, and goes all the way down to a point. So I can use this because of the long, it's very long and metal, so I can actually get some pressure on these coils. So when I put this in here, these are wrapped around a 2mm, so when I get to a certain point, there's a resistance to this, and then I can actually push the coil over. And that has been the easiest way for me without squeezing the coil and overlapping the wraps. So anyways, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some cotton in here. This is really the trickiest part, to be honest with you. I mean, I've maybe for some the coils are tougher, and I get that. I've been doing coils for a long time, so for me that's not the trickiest part. The trickiest part is getting just the right amount of wick in this thing. So I'm just going to take a piece of cotton here. And I'm using some Cellu cotton here, and I'm just going to, about that much. I'm going to start out with it being real narrow on one point, so that I can, just like this right here, so that now I can find just the right amount. So I'm going to pull that through, okay, and I'm going to twist with this hand, and I'm going to pull with the other hand until I get just the right amount of resistance that I'm looking for. And I think that's good right there. Now I'm going to trim this, and I forgot my scissors. Hang on. Okay. The way I'm going to trim this is I'm going to turn it like this, okay, and then I'm going to trim it to be the same shape as the deck. It's going to come down to a point, because I just want to set the cotton really on top of, like that. To cut it at an angle. I just want enough cotton to just not a lot of cotton. That's actually too much over here. I just need enough cotton to sit on top of those juice channels. I don't want enough cotton that I'm going down into those juice channels, because then I'm going to be getting dry hits. You just need enough. A little bit goes a long way. You just need enough to soak up the juice. And this has some really large juice channels. So at first I was worried, oh man, it's going to leak. But I have not experienced that yet. This tank has not leaked on me. But I have gotten dry hits from too much cotton. Okay, so here's the way it looks after I've put my cotton in here. And I may still trim this some more, but I'm not going to know until I get some juice on there and then tuck the cotton where I want it to be. So I'm going to just kind of put some juice on this. That'll get these frizzies under control, and it'll give me an idea of where my cotton is going to sit. And then I can kind of adjust from there if I need to. So then I'm just going to kind of and let me go ahead and give you a better look at this. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of take my little tool, and you can use your screwdriver or whatever tool you have available, and I'm just going to kind of pack it so that I'm squishing it together so it makes a little ball. Okay. See that? Just making it a little ball. And then I'm just sitting it right on top of that juice channel. And I might have just a little bit going down inside that channel. But I want the juice to flow freely. I also don't want to have so much cotton that it oversaturates to the point that it will leak down those air holes, because there is not a rim surrounding the air holes like a ledge to keep the juice out. So it just kind of soaks up, and it could drip down into those. Like if you had a freak show or a Kennedy, then sometimes people over drip and it leaks down through the air holes. This is the same scenario right here. So I'm just going to want to get this cotton in here. And sometimes I'll just kind of push it up against even the screws on the build deck, just so it's not getting caught when I put this chimney section on, this barrel on here. Because if that happens, then I'm surely to not have my cotton where I want it. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And that's still kind of a lot of cotton. But as long as it's not down inside that juice channel too much, then I should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and screw this barrel section on top. Okay. And already I can see there's too much cotton in that juice channel. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that. Dropping stuff. I'm just gonna, matter of fact, two of those sides had just too much cotton. I'm kind of almost doing the pancake method, if you've heard of that. But it's kind of like it's in a 4-post, so it's like 4 little pancakes. Okay, so let's try that. And yeah, it looks like if I go all the way around, I'm not seeing any cotton in my juice channels. I'm just going to screw this all the way down. Really smooth threads on the authentic. The clone did have a little bit of just not the greatest threads on this barrel section. It felt a little bit thinner, and it, you know, the barrel itself felt just a little bit thinner, and the threads were not as smooth. So then now that I've got this on here, I kind of just poked that cotton that was sticking up top. I just kind of poked down to the corners. Okay. Now I'm going to put my tank section on, because I had this all taken apart and cleaned. And now I'll put this section on. If you have one of these tanks, you know about these sections. If you don't, there's that tank section, there's the coil head that goes in, which in this case I'm using the rebuild head, and then there's this chimney section right here that screws into the barrel section here, and then this is what you're left with, which is its top fill. So now I've got this top cap right here, and that's going to go on there once I put my silicone plug in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill this a little bit. I'm not going to fill it up all the way because if I have to adjust something, I don't want to have all this juice to deal with. So I'm just going to put enough in there to cover those juice ports to make sure that I'm wicking properly, and I'll know probably within about 10 hits whether or not. So to make sure that I have a good vacuum seal, I put my silicone plug back in, put this ring back on the top, a little top cap, and you know, I don't think I have any 510 drip tips, so I'm just going to hit it right off the top here. So this is 33 watts. The airflow is wide open. As you can see, it's a lot of airflow. And it's a little bit, it doesn't taste the greatest right now. It tastes like cotton. And it's spitting a little bit because the cotton was very saturated. But once you kind of get that cotton broken in, that flavor goes away and the vacuum kind of sets. Sometimes I'll turn this upside down like this and I'll blow until I tilt it upside down, and that kind of takes all the air out of the chimney section. I do have a drip tip, it's just I don't want to take it off of this Mephisto because it's a pain. This is actually a Zephyrus drip tip. Usually there's a heat sink that goes in between this and the top cap, but I don't have that with me. So it seems to be definitely wicking sufficiently, and it might be wicking too much. I can't tell yet. Pretty good for 33 watts. It's a 0.4, so I'm confident that I can probably run it at about 40 watts before it starts getting kind of burnt tasting. Now I've already vaped through that little bit of juice there, so I'm gonna have to put some more juice in to get an accurate feel to see whether or not I think it's gonna dry hit on me. I don't think it's going to. I used a very small amount of cotton. I think the juice is flowing freely. The question is there going to be too much? And in the past, I have thought it was going to leak, and it has not. So this is the same method I've always used, whether I'm using nickel or kanthal. No matter what gauge of wire I'm using, I want to make sure it's well saturated. I don't want dry hits. Now I can put a nickel build in here and avoid dry hits altogether. But that's a little tougher. The airflow is great. The flavor is really good. Definitely getting a little bit of spit back. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take my tank section off with the chimney. I'm going to upside down. I'm going to take this off just like any other sub tank, right? Because it'll work the same way. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to tuck this cotton down in the corners a little bit more, try and avoid the flooding that's happening, because it is flooding a little bit, and this is the first time I've experienced flooding with this tank. So I'm going to poke that down in there a little bit more, try and see if I can basically stop the flood. I'm just going to poke it down to where I know it's covering that juice channel more. I may even take just a little tiny piece like this, and just, I see the one corner has way more juice in it than the others, so I may just go ahead and poke that down in there to help soak that juice up. Whether or not it will wick into the coil is not a problem, because it'll sponge from that piece of cotton to the next piece of cotton. So let's try this again. The O-ring came off with it when I did that. That's kind of weird. I'm still getting some spit back. So, so I'm probably going to have to re-wick this. Okay, when I took the cap off, it really looks like there's enough cotton there. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So what I'm going to do, instead of re-wicking it, I'm just going to poke this down a little bit more so that I get more of that cotton into the channel. Because I was unable to really get it in there the way I wanted to without taking this chimney barrel off, the outer barrel to this head. And you know, I really want to try and avoid getting the cotton into the threads, which is why I do it that way. So there, I've got some down inside those juice channels now. Just the tail. And let's see if that does. Now, when I start to put this on, I can see it grabbed a lot of it. So I'm just going to kind of maybe just poke this up there a little bit. I mean, the juice channels in this thing are just massive. You know, they're really big. They're probably about 4 millimeters, I'd say, if I had to guess. You know, I don't have any measuring utensils with me right now, so. Alright, so let's give that a whirl. First couple hits are going to be the same as they were because the wicks are very saturated. And then we'll see if it dries up a little bit. Now I'm getting some condensation, which is normal. A little more than I'd like, but I don't think it's spit back. Seems to be drying up for me. And I'm getting just the vapor now. Ooh, excuse me. No dry hits yet. Seems to be hitting really good. Still no dry hits. I'd like to point out, though, that I had to wash the RBA deck because it tasted like machine oil the first time I built it. No dry hits. It's hitting great. I'm going to go ahead and turn the watts. Let's go up to 45 watts. Whoop. And all the way to 52. Okay. It's keeping up at 45 watts. No issues, man. So that's a 0.4 build with 26 gauge kanthal, inside the used Zephyrus rebuild deck. I did have to put more cotton in here than I usually do. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if maybe the clone had smaller juice ports on it or what, but I also think nickel tends to burn the juice up a little quicker. But I'm not experiencing any wicking problems right now. It's not flooding anymore. So anyways, there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Francis Vapes here. And like and subscribe to this channel. And, you know, throw some comments down below about what you want to see. I know that I had somebody request for me to do a build video on the AnyVape Sega Tank RBA deck, and I'll be doing that sometime probably this week or weekend. If not, it'll be early next week. And anyways, thanks everybody for watching, and I'm out.